term a baker's dozen, it's a pretty old school term. It goes back to the 13th century, and it was basically for bakers that were baking in England or the United Kingdom. They didn't want to be accused of underselling the weight of their bread, so they baked a 13th loaf to kind of appease customers and also appease the royalty and whatnot. This is my baker's dozen shave. It's my 13th shave. And if you remember in my last video, I said I had something pretty cool for this. So what I'm actually going to do is use 13 different products or at least like instruments for this shave. So it's going to be nuts. It's going to be chaotic, but I'll show you everything I'm going to use. The first thing that I'm going to show you, I'm super excited about. This is the first video I've made with this. I've actually only had it a few days, but that is the Glow Cube from Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements. And you know, I've seen a lot of videos of people using this and then they turn out the lights and you can only half see it. Let me post a picture. Yeah, there you go. You can really see how well it glows. Now that's a long exposure photo, so that makes it maybe a little bit, well, it's probably closer to what the eye actually sees. But still, that's pretty bright. But yeah, I've seen a lot of these videos where you don't really see much at all. If I just turned out the lights right now, you wouldn't see. You wouldn't glow like that. So I've kind of staged that photo, if you will. Let's see. Let me go through everything real quick, and then I'll use everything, and then I don't have to count again. So that's number one. Number two, I've got two shaving creams. I've got Proraso Blue, and I've got Kiss My Face. This is the Lavender Shea Moisture shave here. So that's three. It's 2 and 3. I've actually got them both pressed into a bowl right here. I know they pretty much look the same, but they're both white creams. So that's 1, 2, 3. I'll go ahead and show you my other two soaps that I'm going to use. I've got them both pressed into my Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements Scuttle, and that's Cella, or Cella, however you pronounce it. I went with this, as well as Mr. Pepper. The reason I went with both of these is because they both kind of have a cherry scent to them, so I felt like they would complement each other well. So what is that? That's pre-shave 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5. So I'm up to 5. So now let's show what I'm going to use for the brushes I'm going to use. I've got an Omega synthetic. I've got it in some water, that's why it's kind of pointy here. Hold on, I've lost count. Well, I'll have a ticker going. The other brush that I'm going to use is a Semouge boar, and I'm going to be using that with the Scuttle, and I'm going to be using that with the Cella and the Mr. Pepper. And then let me go through the razors. So my first razor that I'm going to be using is this Parker. What is it? It's the heavy. I forget the actual numbers for it. It's a Parker Shavette. SRW, SWR, something like that. It's the heavy duty Shavette. If you've seen my last couple of videos, I've talked about how I'm going to be using Shavettes a bit more and then eventually make the jump into a straight razor. So that's the first pass, and in that I've got the box here because I've already got the blades loaded up. Treet Platinum half blade. And then for the second pass, I'll be using the Fantasma, the newest razor from Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements. Same thing here. I've seen people doing videos and you kind of see it glow, but let me show a really good glowing photo there. So yeah, this sucker really glows. It is a, they say it's an open comb and then a double slant. I mean, the slant on this thing is insane. The first couple times I used it, I was kind of like, oh man, that's nuts. Yeah, it's very aggressive. It's great though. I love it. I've gotten some great shaves out of it so far. And then I will be using my 5th use Astra blade here. This is my final use of this blade. And I've used it with the Fantasma. It works really well. So that should get us through the whole shave. And then to wrap everything up, I'm going to use 2 balms. I'm going to use the Nivea Maximum Hydration Post-Shave Balm and then the Dove Min Care Hydration Plus Post-Shave Balm. That should be 13. Am I right? It should be everything. If not, if my numbers are off, well, it is what it is. It's still a lot of stuff, and it's going to be pretty nuts here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the pre-shave, and then I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to, because I got a lot of lathering to do. And then I'll just come back when it's time to lather up. So using the pre-shave here, I've used it a couple of times. You know, I hear raving reviews about it, and it's good. I think I just need to, you know, use it a few more times to really figure out, hit my stride, if you will. Just kind of rub it on here against the grain. I've got a couple days growth, so that should come through. I've seen people actually just using this. They just shave with the cube, which I guess so. It's got a very light scent. I'm assuming the scent is similar to clown fruit, which I have not smelled or used, but it's a nice pleasant scent. Kind of smells like root beer to me. And I know for clown fruit, the scent profile was like burnt sugar. Maybe the burnt sugar that I'm supposed to be smelling is kind of root beer for me. It's a sweet smell. It's good. I like it. Okay, let me kind of scrub that in. And then let that sit a minute. Good stuff. Smells good. But it doesn't overpower the actual cream that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to take a quick break, and I'm going to lather up all this soap, and I'll come back when it's time to apply it to the face. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we're back. I've got my bowls lathered up here. I'm ready to get started. Let me wet the face one more time. I'm curious if any of y'all ever used, you know, like a ton of different products. I see some of these like shave of the day photos that some people post, and that's a lot, you know, between like witch hazel and aftershave balm and aftershave, you know, it's like, it's quite a bit of stuff. I don't know, just something I've noticed. This is definitely the most I've ever used. There's been a couple of times that I've done like the first pass with a razor and then switched to a different razor for the second pass. You know, kind of like an adjustable. I've got a mild razor and then I'll switch to a more aggressive razor for the next pass. Okay. So it's the Shavette, bear with me. I'm still kind of slow. I mean, I know that I'll clean everything up with the second pass, so, you know, I'm not gonna spend all day on it. Okay. I feel like I'm getting a little better. I'm getting some off-camera shaves in with it. As well as a commissary Shavette that I have. I kind of just alternate between the two. Now the tricky part for me, And that's switching to my left hand and doing this side with my left hand. Not near as good, but I'm getting there. And if you saw in my last video, I actually been using my double-edged blades razors with my left hand some. I need to work on the whole skin stretching thing. I'm not quite there, but this works if the blade's really sharp. Okay, one little section on the neck here and then I can move on. Okay, good enough. I may have nicked myself right there. Good enough for right now. Okay. I'm good. Now, off to the next two soaps. They did get a little bit dry here in the scuttle, so I'm going to kind of hydrate those a bit. Remember, this is, the last one was Kiss My Face, Lavender, and Proraso Blue. This is Central Soap Company, Mr. Pepper, and then Cella. And it's nice and warm because it's in my scuttle here. I have a lot of leftover soap when this is all said and done, because it's only like one pass. I didn't want to fall short on lather, so you know, I did that last video and I talked about how Jerry Jeff Walker died, and that made me sad. Then I heard Billy Joe Schaefer died. Jeez. And Sean Connery's died. It's just sad, man. I'm making a huge mess. Wasn't a huge Billy Joe Schaefer fan, but, you know, Texas country, and my two favorite types of music are like screamo death metal and bluegrass. And not traditional bluegrass. I like what's called like newgrass. It's more kind of like hippie jam band grass. Let me go back to metal real quick. So I got into heavy metal when I was about 12 or 13. We moved into this neighborhood, and there was a kid down the block who was honestly a bad influence. You know, he'd sneak his dad's cigarettes and whatnot, and I'd take a puff. But he turned out okay, I guess. And so did I. But I credit him with introducing me to metal. And the song specifically was One by Metallica, if you've ever heard that song. It's like 8 minutes long. It doesn't even really get heavy until like 5 minutes in. But the first time I heard that song, I was like, this is it for me. So I started listening to like Pantera and like Slayer, White Zombie before Rob Zombie. It was the 90s and I listened to metal. And so now I listen, like the internet has changed music completely. I listen to these really obscure metal bands. Carnifex. Cattle Decapitation. Autopsy. 3 Inches of Blood. These are legit names of metal bands. Lamb of God, I really like them. A band called Behemoth. I know I'm just name dropping a bunch of like metal bands, but I wouldn't have discovered these bands without the internet. And even though I'm a dad with 2 daughters, I love me some screamo death metal. And then also, of course, the bluegrass. The way I got into bluegrass was in college. And I have a buddy. And this was in West Texas. I went to Texas Tech. And he ended up, he went every summer and fought forest fires in Montana and Wyoming. And in the summer, I like sublet his apartment. And he had a whole collection of these like bluegrass albums. And I listened to a bunch of them. In particular, a band called Yonder Mountain String Band. And then I've seen those guys live a whole bunch. But then there's other bands that I really like in that same genre. Again, wouldn't have discovered them without the internet. Pert Near Sandstone, that's one of them. There's a band I really liked called Mountain Sprout when I lived in Arkansas. Most of their songs were about growing marijuana. But yeah, I love all music. Believe me, I listen to anything and everything. From rap to jazz to opera. But if it sounds good, I'll listen to it. But I hate to see musicians pass away. I mentioned Sean Connery. He probably sang in a movie at some point. Okay. The last like big concert I went to before the pandemic, I saw Tool in Chicago back in November with a really good friend of mine. Great show. My wife hates Tool. It's too like melodic for her. I like that it's really intricate and complex. So 13 things for my 13th shave. I think that worked out well. Well, haven't quite used 13 yet. Ditch this towel. So we'll do these 2 balms. Let me do this one first. Okay. Instead of using 2 aftershaves, thought I'd use 2 balms. They honestly both kind of smell the same. Similar. There they are, the 2 in my hand. Let's mix those up. What's cool about mixing scents like this, whether it's aftershaves or soaps or whatever, you never know what you're going to discover. You might discover some scent that's like, oh man, that's my go-to. You never know until you try. Okay, I am shaved, I'm hydrated. That's a wrap. Thanks for watching my 13th shave. 14's coming up. Just have to see what that is. Thanks so much. Take care.